Hi boat builders, Larry Lalone with Geodesic Aerolite Boats again. Today's video we're going to cover some of the ways to work with the heavyweight Dacron. We've been carrying it for a few months now. It's by far the majority of our sales and a lot of people are working with it. We're just finishing up our fourth boat with it and we want to pass along some tips and some advice on how to use it. So the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and bring it on in here, Mike. Is we're going to show you how the difference in how to work with it. It takes more heat and more amount of time to work with. So what I've done, I've got a little 2x4 here set up with some heat and bond on it. We've got the iron ready, and we're just going to melt it through and show you how the heat and bond melts through the fabric. This is the lightweight here. This is the lightweight stuff, and you can see how quickly it melts through. It's almost like a waxy. I actually burned through it right there. I got this a little too hot, but you can see it actually melts right through, and it's kind of a waxy feel when you get done. And you can see it doesn't take any amount of time, and you can see when you do it, it actually leaves wrinkles on here. And this is one of the reasons why on the boat, when you put it on, it's a little more wrinkled. Now this is the heavyweight stuff here, and again, we're going to put it on here, and you can just see from this, it takes more heat and more time to get it through. It goes through just as well, seals just as well, but it just takes more time to work with. The other important thing is that if you look at it, it doesn't wrinkle as much through here when you're putting it on. And that's a good thing, because when you put the fabric across the bottom of the boat and drape it down, you don't have as many wrinkles that are going to be passed down through to the bottom of the boat. So it does drape better. It is a little bit easier to work with because of that, but it just takes more time, more heat, but the end result can be the same. The other prop we have here is this is made up, little block I made up. It's got the heavyweight on one side, the lightweight on the other side. I just want to show you the difference in how quickly this stuff shrinks. So here's the lightweight stuff. That's all shrunk. The heavyweight stuff, it's not quite shrunk yet. See, it just takes more time to get to it. But once you got it shrunk, exactly the same results. So you can get the same tightness. It just takes more time to do it. So that answers the question: is it harder to work with? Some parts of it are harder to work with. Some are easier to work with. Overall, you get the same results. So it just takes a little bit longer. So the next thing I want to cover is once you drape it over the boat. Most of what you see in the other videos, we have, I think, 3 videos out there on covering the boat and draping it over the boat, sealing it along the keelson, doing the ends. You can see the end on this boat's already been done on the other side. All that's pretty much the same as what you see in the other videos. The 2 things that are noticeably different about this boat is that because this fabric is stiffer and heavier, when you drape it, if you do have a wrinkle and you leave the fabric this long on the side, the wrinkle tends to be a little bit more pronounced and harder to get out. So you can see what I've done on this boat is I've cut the fabric off about 4 inches short, or 4 inches from where it's on the keelson, and then I made some darts. I cut some darts in here about every 5 or 6 inches, and what that does, it just helps you manage the wrinkles better. If you can see the side of this boat compared to the boat in the other videos with the lightweight fabric, you can see the wrinkles are much less pronounced on this boat, easier to work with. And so there are a couple techniques, a couple little tricks to working with this that I want to show. Once you've got it sealed and you've got the darts cut in it, on the lightweight fabric, you saw how it shrunk on our test panel there. When you've got something, can you see that pretty well? When you've got a wrinkle like this, that is kind of deep. With the lightweight stuff, you can just put an iron on it and the heat will get to it and it'll pop right out. This stuff, you can't do that because you have to put more heat on it for a longer period of time. And so what you'll end up doing is melting this or else shrinking this too much. And so it does take a little bit more technique. And there's two ways to do this. I always like to have a little stand next to my iron. The first thing is, you can see these are all very manageable. These are all very manageable. This is really the only one. And I didn't take it out because I want to show these techniques. First thing you can do is just grab this, get your hand out of the way, and just melt it along the gunnel like that. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not, it pulled right out. And then you just hold it for a second, make sure that it stays melted as it seals up. Then you can go down here and do the same thing. You see that slide right out of there? So that's become a much more manageable size wrinkle now. And once you've got it shrunk down like that, this is, I think we showed this in one of our other videos, this is one of our high-tech tools, a little piece of 2x4. And in order to get the heat on the fabric, because again, even with that wrinkle, you aren't going to be able to get the heat directly onto the fabric or close enough. So what we do is we put that little 2x4 behind there and just iron onto the 2x4. And you can see how that's, by ironing it onto the edge of the 2x4, you can see how those wrinkles come right out. Again, you can still use this technique on the lightweight fabric as well, just to make it a little easier. But it's almost essential with this heavy fabric to have something to push the fabric out. And you can see still a little bit of work left to do, but you can see how easily these wrinkles come out when you put the 2x4 behind them. We didn't finish the ends on this one because we already have videos on that, and we don't want to waste anybody's time watching videos. The rest of the shrinking, like up here on the top, can you see those wrinkles pretty well? The rest of it shrinks just like the lightweight stuff. The other thing I found that you need to do that's on the heavyweight material is shrink it down, get it all shrunk tight, and then let it sit for a couple hours, let it cool off, and then come back and go over the entire boat again with the iron. And the reason for that is this stuff, it's such a stiff material that it'll feel like it's shrunk, just if the areas around it are shrunk, but this area isn't, it'll still feel tight because it's so stiff. That just gives you some assurance that the whole boat has been shrunk properly. And again, we haven't finished this one. The side's not done, the ends aren't done, but the other side is. I'm going to walk over there. I've noticed that I have a tendency to walk away from the camera while I'm talking and the audio doesn't come through, so I'm going to be quiet while we walk around to the other side here. And you can see this side is done, the ends are done, the sides are done, and you can see I haven't done the second shrinking on this yet, but you can see it shrinks nicely, forms a beautiful hull. And that's the tricks we've come up with on the heavyweight Dacron. Let me check my notes here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. I think we got it all. And like I said, we're not gonna show you shrinking the rest of this because there's already a video on that. It's virtually identical to to using the lightweight material. It just takes a little bit longer and a little bit higher setting on the iron. This is a 1400 watt iron. The other iron I use is a 1200 watt iron. You can do with both of those. One of the guys who's been using this material does it with a 1000 watt iron. So again, it's just a question of how long it's going to take you. And I think that's about it.